Hello and welcome back to Where Are All My Friends? This week's episode is with Drew DeLeon, who's a pretty rad dude. He's worked at a ton of different labels, he's worked as a manager, but now he is focusing on a project of his own called the Digilogue, which is basically a community, both online and in person, that focuses on three things. And those three things are things that I like quite a lot, which is education, artist discovery, and careers in music. And we talk not only about his story, but all three of those things. Specifically, we get into jobs in music and how to really find your place in that and how he found his place in that. It's a topic that I end up talking about a lot because I really do want to help people who are interested in developing that side or advancing in music. And I thought he would be a really fun person to talk to. He had a ton of insight. So that was very cool. Without further ado, let's get into it. Enjoy. Where are all my friends? Drew DeLeon. And yet again, shout out to Nick for connecting me with another rad person. And for the listener, I don't really know too much about you. We talked once on the phone, and my feeling where I wanted to leave it is, whoa, you and I have the same purposes with a lot of things of trying to make music and the community a better place. Outside of that, I think we have a very different story that got us to caring about that same thing. And I'm so intrigued by you. I see what you're doing online and I'm just like, holy fuck, tell me everything. So that's my little setup. What's up, dude? Thank you for joining.
Hey, what's up, Andrew? What's up to everyone tuning in? Like you said, shout out to Nick for recommending me to connect with you, and also great interview with Christine as well. So shout out to her. I know.
Yo,
So
yeah.
happy to be here.
Yeah, dude. No, for real. It's really cool. And I think like something that I really enjoy on this podcast is this feeling that within the music industry specifically, but it's really any creative industry, a lot of times you'll see like the big name figurehead artist or the very well-known people, collaborators, but there are so many people that do the coolest shit that are just inherently like low key. Like a lot of the business is a little more behind the scenes. But for myself, when I was kind of really getting into the stride of my career, I was very interested in that side of it. And I wanted more resource and I wanted to hear from more people like that. And I feel like, again, I don't know your story, but I kind of feel that in you where it's like, I had to kind of do a little bit of digging to be like, whoa, fuck, like you've done what? So yeah, like I'm just very interested in that.
No, appreciate that. Yeah, no, we have there's a lot of parallels, and I think to your point, just being able to like share the stories of all these amazing, individuals behind the scenes that really impact, the music community every day. And just to be able to share their stories, because a lot of those stories really connect, I think, for this future generation, because, everyone may have a certain idea of how to like break into music, but like I said, everyone has a different entry point. And I think a lot of the stories do connect with and resonate with this younger audience that, I think they assume that there's just a certain way to enter the space, but there's not.
Yeah. Dude, yeah. So, okay, so here, before we get ahead of ourselves, for anybody who doesn't know who you are, quickly
Mhm.
kind of paint the picture of who you are and what you're currently up to and what you're doing, and then we'll kind of backtrack it and like take it through how you got there.
Yeah, definitely. So for those new to me, my name is Drew DeLeon. I'm one of the co-founders, and I also head digital marketing for a global music and tech and community called the Digilogue. We've been programming for the past 5 years, and we primarily focus on three verticals, which includes music education, which is really the foundation that we focus on, and music careers, where we really provide resources for this next generation with job listings and opportunities, and then artist discovery, where we really help independent artists with opportunities from playlisting support to like editorial content. So you know I think when I first started, my first passion was just my first why was really the artist. But I think as that my career evolved, it's really this music community that really has become my second why. And I'm super excited to do this full time now.
Yeah. Wow. No, that's really cool. It's really, really cool. And again, I think like as you carve out a little bit of success in your own lane, you maybe start to think about the future and the how you can help build a community and how you can do more than just yourself and taking care of yourself. So I feel that a lot in your story, but maybe take me back. Like, another thing too, to add to that is my outside perception of the Digilogue, and something that when people get it, they get it. The visual aesthetic and the presentation and the attention to detail that I have seen in that is remarkable. And I think that that's such a great sign of like people who take pride in what they do. And as I kind of did my brief homework and went through it and really like understood it, that was something that stood out to me quite a lot. And a piece that I really liked was you as well have a podcast. Maybe it's on pause a little bit right now, but um, the L's, lessons learned.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like just that, right? Like, what a great concept. Like, I just that name, and it was so cool because a lot of podcasts like this, it's like, cool, who are you? What was your story? Your come up, all that. I really like the angle of like, where did you fuck up? What were your biggest L's? And then what did you learn from that? That was a really cool approach. So that was another thing that I want to immediately flag of like, hey, fuck yeah, you do this other cool thing.
Appreciate it. I have to give kudos to the team. I've and the team includes like few, past attendees, people that I've met through past events, and they just been part of the community for the past 5 years. So I got to give credit, a shout out to the team. It's not a one man band, and
Yeah.
I just got to give so much credit to them.
Yeah, damn. Well, it's a well executed presentation for the whole team, and that's cool. So for you, where was your first moment of finding maybe it was music, maybe it was something else, but like kind of that moment in your early days of being like, yo, I fucking love this and this is the lane. Like, where did you find that?
I think growing up, everyone, they're always kind of looking for like their purpose and like where they fit in. For me, first generation Filipino. So when I first came to the States, the big pressure for my family was just to study hard, get good grades, eventually get a job so you can support, your parents. And when I went to college, I went to a business school in the city, and it was primarily focused on the finance and accounting. So my first major was just accounting, because in my mind I was like, all right, well, if I just get this secure job, this guaranteed salary, I'm going to make my parents happy and give back to all the sacrifices they offered me. But in doing that, I was like, I quickly found out that accounting wasn't it. And the assumption that like I love numbers, but I don't love it enough where like I wanted to do that as a full-time gig. So I quickly pivoted and I decided to pursue marketing. I think there's definitely like early signs of me like loving marketing, but obviously loving music as well. And I was always surrounded by creative friends, even though I was just focused on like the business side of things. I had friends that were artists, I had friends that were DJs, I had friends that were just photographers. So for me, like I was always like that creative business mind, but surrounded by creatives. So that helped me just kind of maintain, my creativity and my love for marketing. But like I said, going back to my point about kind of satisfying my parents and their expectations. I took this finance gig right off the gate. They were super happy, proud of me. I'm the eldest of like 5 kids, so
Oh,
they're like,
damn.
"All right, you did it. Now you can help us out." And it was a lot of pressure. So I had to really like overcompensate just to doing things for other people, because that's naturally like my persona. And I didn't necessarily think about myself. I didn't think about like what was important to me and what I valued. And around 25, um, this was what at the really at the height of the recession. This was around 2009. And mind you, like if you're like trying to leave a job, it's probably the worst time to do so. So
Yeah, fuck.
and the thing is, like I was working like close to 67 hours a week for this investment bank and as a trade analyst. And I was like, you know what? I need to figure out like what makes me happy and what inspires me every day. And this is not it. It's not living in an apartment in the city. It's not having this great salary. It's something bigger than this. I don't know what it is, but I need to figure it out. And you're not going to get that answer immediately. But, once I decided to take that leap, my family wasn't necessarily happy. A lot of people were just very just like confused, but I
Hmm.
needed to do something for myself. So what I did was, I took some time off. I decided to travel to California for a bit and just like really just found some alone time for myself and just kind of hear my thoughts. So I traveled up and down the coast, saw family members just to like catch up with them. And once, you leave the city, you get to like really hear your thoughts. You get to like really see things slowing down. And that's where like I started to like, all right, what can I do? And my friend at the time was a DJ, and he was like, I Drew, like you're like my friend, and I need your help. You have strong business acumen. I need you to help me like get gigs in the city. I was like, I don't know what that means, but I know business. I know how to write emails, so I know how to talk to people. So that's what I did. And eventually, fast forward, I became his manager, and that was really my first entry point in music, just becoming his manager. And I just had to, I didn't have a book, I didn't have a mentor. I just kind of dove right into it.
Dude, I so many parallels in that. Like, I think that's very relatable. I think a lot of people will chase a solid career stability, then kind of have that moment where you're like, oh, fuck, I made money and I'm still not happy. What's this mean? And then, like, that moment. But I certainly very much relate to all of that. Would I know the artist that you managed first?
But a DJ, no. I mean, he's, I don't know if he's even DJing anymore, but yeah, he
Okay.
was, yeah. Because I remember like he had a library of music, and this is a really pivotal time in DJing where, everything transferred over from vinyl to Serato. So
Yeah.
everyone was
Oh,
DJing on their Macs, and you know, and it was like, hey,
yeah.
it created more access for people to
Yeah.
DJ too.
Yeah. Damn. So then for you, like, that's a really interesting point in your life. So you're how old when you're kind of like, okay, I guess I'll take a crack at this manager thing?
25.
25. Okay. Yes, I feel that. Like you're old enough that you're an adult and you've carved it out and you've experienced life, but you're still relatively young and you got that grit to like keep going and like chase shit and work hard. What, like, I mean, I know my personal experiences, but like, was it some amounts of quick success where you're like, oh shit, I can do this? Or did you have like a lot of moments of like, what did I just sign up for? And like how long did it take to start clicking? You didn't have a mentor. Like just paint that picture because those moments to me are everything.
Yeah, I mean, when you're a manager, and I think for the audience or for any past managers, it's a selfless job, and you're managing an artist or a DJ. In my case, I was just trying to figure out how I can help my friend. I didn't necessarily think of it as like a business venture in the beginning. I did have to like make things official, right? Create an email. I created like my own LLC just to make things official. But at the time, I just wanted to help them out. But gigs, I got a small percentage based off like what gigs I got them, but it wasn't necessarily going to be like my main source of income. So I had to figure out what my side hustle was or whatever that may be. I just remember all of these different side hustles at the time just to like pay rent. Um, I was a tutor for math, which is funny because I didn't say love math, but I was good at it. And I was tutor in high school. I worked at this what's it called this footwear store boutique in Soho. I remember I was a softball referee on the weekends. I also refereed volleyball games. I just figured out any way that I could just make cash
Yeah.
while I could like do this. So once I found stability, so around 2011, my friend was able to connect me with the manager over at Beats by Dre. So the headphone company was really like the hottest headphone at the time. It was like wearing Jordans on your head,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they were opening up a boutique store in Soho with like a pop up store for 3 months, and they were looking for like a brand manager. They were looking for someone to kind of like help, invite artists from the community and also work at the store. I was like, it was like a great opportunity because it provided stability, but also I got to work with different artists and invite them into the concept store. So mind you, like for that first year, right after like I decided to leave, it was, oof, um, man, I definitely had my back against the wall. Like definitely had to like reach out to like family to help me out, and it was a humbling moment because you're just making when you wake up you're happy, but
Mm.
when you think about the reality of it, it's like this is not sustainable. And
Yeah.
but I stuck with it, like, and it wasn't about just like, all right, I'm just gonna give up. No, I'm gonna deal with this. I'm gonna scale back because you got to think about it. Like I was in a place where I was getting a regular salary. I was living in the city. I was living in downtown Manhattan, and to move to like change that mindset, it allowed me to really just remove the things that weren't important to me and
Yeah.
really appreciate the real friendships I had. And
Dude.
you'd be surprised the circles have shifted. Like, all right, cool. Like you're not that guy anymore that's buying people drinks on weekends. Like you're the guy that's like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go out because I don't have bread to. It's
Yeah,
like,
dude. Dude, that's so real. And what about your thoughts, like, as you were coming into a totally different industry? I know at least for myself, I always kind of think about this or joke about this of if I had known fully, like, this is fucking it, this is my thing, I'm in it forever, this specific trade, I probably would have been further along in my career faster. But I think that I knew that I really liked music and I knew that, I mean, I can't play anything. So I knew that it was helping artists. Like I always thought it was so cool to help these incredible creative people accomplish these amazing things. But it took a minute to find my true place because I worked at a label, a tour manager, blah, 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 management. So for you coming into it in management, did you feel instantly like, all right, yeah, this is it? Or did you kind of like start to think like, okay, this is cool, but I wonder if I dabble in other spots as well? Like, what was that like?
yeah, yeah, definitely. I think, well, the management part was just because as a manager, you just do everything.
Yeah.
And for me, like I studied marketing, so marketing was always just like my biggest strength, like just coming up with creative ideas. And it was such an interesting time in terms of the digital space where digital media and streaming was
Oh,
really at the forefront of this kind of like this new chapter in music, right? So, Instagram started, just came out, Twitter,
it's like back when
Facebook.
social was fun.
Yeah, social was fun, and just trying to like navigate that with new music and new artists. So like for me, that's where I found kind of like my my biggest value towards the music community is like marketing, but eventually digital marketing, and
Yeah.
to be able to kind of go through trial and experience with testing things out from a marketing standpoint. I got to test that out just with the artists and like the DJs I worked with, and it was really cool because everything was just brand new. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
no one knew what streaming was gonna be. No one knew what Instagram was gonna be or Twitter. We were just like
Yeah.
figuring it out, going, day by day, and it was fun. Yeah.
So, your podcast, The L's, you talk about those failures and all that, but I'm curious, like in that moment, as you were coming up, did you have any moments in trial and error with that where you had like a holy fuck, like, yo, this worked? Like, did you have any like early moments of ideas coming together and just like crushing it?
Yeah, I think I remember with Facebook, my biggest thing was just always about creating fandom. So like,
Mhm.
being able to create Facebook groups for like the DJing and like the artists that I was working with, and just being able to create like a cool hub where like fans can talk to them. Just
Mhm.
like coming up with these ideas like, all right, let's just create a Facebook group, for
Yeah.
your fans. All right,
Yeah.
cool, dope. And then with Twitter, Twitter was just always just kind of like your subconscious talking. So like, how do we, showcase your personality on this thing that
Yeah.
people like to just ramble about? So
Mhm.
just going through those experiences and testing it out because we didn't necessarily know what it was that we were doing. We're just just going through the motions. And then I remember also there was a platform called Wix at the time. Like we created a website. So
Oh,
just
yeah.
being able to like create things that were accessible, all these digital tools that
Yeah.
didn't necessarily like wasn't as hard as it was maybe like 10 years before that, where like now it's a lot easier to market your music online. And obviously during
Yeah.
that time too, like MySpace started to phase out. So just trying to figure out what the new tools were going to be. So I think that
Yeah.
was cool.
It's funny, like you're saying all of that, and every single thing there, I'm like, But the reason why I'm following along and that it feels so normal is because it wasn't always the standard. I feel like now here we are in 2022, and it's like, well, yeah, you kind of just have to do those things. But take that 10 years back, and the people who executed that well, that was that was doing it. Like that was really like pushing certain things and playing around with that and learning how to have a voice on some of those platforms wasn't the necessary. It was like the above and beyond. And they're like, whoa, cool. Like this artist figured that out. So it's kind of funny. Like I think back to that and I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, and just doing really cool things in person. Like I remember we did like a art gallery slash like music event where like our artists performed, and just creating like for me was about creating really cool moments where
Hmm.
artists wasn't just like performing at a stage on a stage. It was like how do we
Yeah.
create an experience?
Yeah.
Um, and we did something where like we collaborated with an artist and they put a bunch of art and they had the artist perform. So just making those type of experiences, especially for the indie artists, just being collaborative. And obviously we have to bootstrap and be resourceful, ask a lot of favors. Like, hey, huge favor, I need you to do this, please.
Yeah.
And everything during that time was just like last minute to like the last hour just to get things done. And yeah, it's just but my mindset was like, well, we're gonna get this done. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but we're gonna do it.
Yep. Yeah. Dude, yeah, I fucking feel you. So, all right. So that's, you're carving out your lane, you're doing that, you're kind of finding digital, all that. What's like the next evolution of your career? Where does it go from there?
Yeah, so fast forward from 2009 to like 2016, and I was working at Beats by Dre as I mentioned, but
Hmm.
around 2014, I had I decided I was like, all right, I can't do this for the next 2 years. Like I can't just be working at this store. um, I need to like really just jump into this. So I decided to focus on my like agency slash management company called Blank Label. And around 2014 and 2016, and that's what I did. Going back to Wix. So I had a Wix website, and at the
Yeah.
time, Wix they had a co-working space in downtown Manhattan. And one of the perks was that if you had a Wix website, you could sign up to like work out of there.
No
And if you're,
shit.
yeah, if you're approved, you get to work out of there for free. Um,
Damn.
and you get to work with like all these different creatives that come from different sectors, from like finance, from advertising,
That's a cool
marketing.
idea.
Yeah, so it was like really the creative like co-working space. And I got approved and I started working there around 2015. And I went in there every day from the moment that they opened until they ended at 5 p.m. and just worked. And that's where like I started consulting artists, independent artists at the time, and helping build their digital. And then using Wix, I started designing like artist websites for artists, and then really building like my independent business. And then with that in mind, I started to see opportunity there where like, there's this community here where I see different sectors like finance, fashion. They were doing meetups, but I didn't see music. So in my mind, I was like, how do we, invite all these artists across New York City to like do some meetups? And I reached out to my friend at the time that was working with me at the co-working space. I was like, let's do like a music meetup. I don't know what to call it, like a dialogue or something, or a digital
Ah,
dialogue. But because we had gone to like a networking event and you had to pay for it, and it was so transactional, I was like, I want to create something that's just super inclusive where people can just join. And we did it. So around the summer of 2016, I was still working out of that co-working space, and we decided to launch our first Digilogue workshop, which had about 16 people, and invited people to meet up. And it was great because they were like, so when's the next one?
mhm. Yeah,
And we
yeah,
did
yeah.
one the next one, and they're like, and then there was like 50 people at the next event, and then they're like, when's the next one? They're like, all right, well, let's do another event. And with these workshops, our first workshop was a DJ workshop with Serato. Our next one was a songwriting workshop. So just teaching, the community how to do things from a basic
Yeah.
level. And eventually we scaled into like panel discussions. And, you know, over time, you just start to like program these events. And we started doing these events, at the Wix co-working space. We started collaborating with Microsoft, and eventually we started working with WeWork. And during the time, WeWork was like the co-working space.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was cool to work with them as well. And as I'm programming this, the industry, is getting wind of it because we're highlighting, all up and coming music professionals during these discussions. We're not talking like VPs or EVPs, literally the people that just got hired or are 2 or 3 years out to talk about their experiences in what they're doing in music. And it made
Yeah.
people more accessible to just approach them. And
Yes,
that's
dude.
what we wanted to
Yes.
do. And yeah, so around that was around like, like I said, we launched in 2016. Fast forward to 2018, you know, the one of our community members was working at Def Jam at the time. He DM'd me. He was like, "I love everything that you're doing. I love your social presence. Help me do digital marketing at the label." I was like,
Okay. Okay.
I was like, okay, so I'm, been independent for so long, and I'm trying to build this community. I was like, I might as well do it, as a consultant. And I was very, grateful for it. I learned a lot. I got to learn
Yeah.
about the business from a major label standpoint and really apply a lot of the things I learned as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
where, you don't have all these resources and money sometimes. You just got to be resourceful.
Yeah.
And I brought a lot of my relationships to that. And it just coincided with what I was doing with the Digilogue because I just kept programming and building the Digilogue while I was working at Def Jam at the time. This is around 2018, and that was really a pivotal, point for me in my career.
I mean, yeah, that sounds like it. I mean, and dude, Def Jam too. Like that's what a great company to align with and what a great place to be able to learn and apply your skill set. Like, damn.
Yeah, it was definitely a humbling moment too, just because I was, older, right? So I came in there, around when I was like 33.
Mm,
So, obviously there was a lot of younger people that had more like label experience. But the way I
yeah.
approached it, I approached it as if I was like the intern, right? First person there, last person out.
No
And
shit.
I was like, I need to prove myself. I need to
Yeah.
show that, I definitely had moments of just doubt, just like, do I belong here? And especially when you go into like that first label meeting, and there's like 30 people and they ask you to talk just like, and they're like, you're like, what? um but once I got through the first like month or two, I was like, I definitely belong here, you know.
Really? Really?
Yeah, yeah, so it's
Wow.
intimidating. It's intimidating because like you definitely have those doubts, when you're in those spaces.
Yeah, but that's a really interesting thing to hear because by that time, you'd lived some life. You knew what it was like on the management side. You knew what it was like to do digital independent. You were carving out success with the Digilogue. You were putting together a community and events. So like that's kind of what I was talking about earlier is like you really did get a good feel of many different facets in the industry. So then at a little bit later as an age to go to a major and to be like, yo, this is it. I fit in here. It's really interesting. So, because also too, you do not currently work at Def Jam anymore, right?
No, I don't work at Def Jam anymore. I was there for 2 years, and
Yeah.
I really enjoyed my experience. And then I quickly pivoted, and had an opportunity to like head digital over at Alamo Records, which is a boutique label.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
Yo,
and
but Alamo, like you say boutique, like yes, true, but Alamo has some fucking heavy hitters. Like that's not like just some little thing.
yeah, I gotta give a shout out to for that opportunity. And I think that experience was taking like the big corporate experience and taking my entrepreneur experience and putting it in one place. And I was like,
Oh, cool. Yeah.
so it's like,
Yeah.
all right, cool. Like you know how things run, but you also can be resourceful and just, be able to like pick up, just like responsibilities, because I think when you're a smaller team, you do a lot more.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned, and that's why I enjoyed my experience. But yeah, and then fast forward now, I was there for 2 years, really led digital during the pandemic. Worked with like,
Crazy.
yeah, it was definitely challenging, but my biggest thing was just like maintaining culture for my team, and especially when days were tough.
It's funny because it's kind of full circle, right? It's like you went all in on yourself earlier in your life and your career, and then kind of had this interesting moment where you're like, labels, maybe this works. And then really found yourself a home in that. and then kind of combine the two with Alamo, and then get to the spot where you're back to being like, all right, all in on myself. Let's fucking go.
Definitely. And if like everyone has a different, like I said, journey, and so the way I looked at it is like I think that experience working at the label was super important for me just to understand how it worked, and
Yeah.
then just not just from my own experience, but also from an educational standpoint for the Digilogue community, so I can educate
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow. True.
so a lot
Why
of the
did you end
yeah,
up leaving Alamo?
I mean, personally for me, it was really just to like double down on the Digilogue.
You just
Um,
felt it.
Yeah, I think you do this for, you hit it like a really like an important inflection point. And we hit our
Hmm.
5 years, and with numerous iterations, because at one point we're like, oh, we're gonna be an app. We're like, no,
Mm.
we're gonna do this. But I think the pandemic allowed us to really discover like what our main like verticals were, and music education,
Yeah.
artist discovery, and music careers potentially became that. And I think there's just a clear picture as to like what we want to focus on and how I want to like help the community grow. And I want to be able to do it now where, in terms of like my responsibilities, I don't have like a family, or, I'm with my family, I don't have kids. So I need to do this now, you know?
Yeah. Wow. Dude. I mean, again, I fucking love that. And I really don't like to make episodes about myself. So all I'll say is I deeply personally relate to that journey of working with corporations and working with companies and the steady income and the community and the big title and status. And then that inner feeling of like, fuck, I have this thing that I've made myself, or, with a team, but like have a thing that you like kind of started with you and your circle. And you have such a purpose to just do it. And like you kind of sometimes have to just take that risk or double down because you'll probably think about forever if you hadn't done it. And a lot of times, other jobs in the industry will still be there, even if it fails. So that's all I'll say, but I fucking relate.
I mean, it's, every day I tweeted this probably a few days ago, I tweeted, taking each day one day at a time, and really just at my own pace. And, I'm not thinking too big picture. I'm just really just approaching it day by day and just making sure like I'm present, and that's a
Again,
balance.
dude, I I don't know, man. Again, everything you're saying there, I'm just like, yep, yep, all of that. Holy shit. Yes, the balance, all of it. Speaking of the Digilogue, though, I'm new to really fully grasping the concept, but I think again, the one time we did talk, what really stood out to me was the general purpose or why of really helping people in all of those verticals. And I think a lot of the people listening to this podcast are either artists that are on their grind and starting to succeed, which is cool, or people that are looking to get aside in the music industry, or really just, again, like creative careers. You're either trying to do your own creative thing or trying to work with a dope company. I really like your career vertical because I think it's one of those things where everybody wins. And I love building things where you're not taking advantage of anybody. It's like this very, very mutual benefit. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically the idea that if you build a dope community with the Digilogue and you have all of these rad people that are continuously educating themselves and discovering new rad music and very passionate about careers in this, then that's very valuable to companies. I think a lot of people looking to get jobs in music or creative careers maybe don't realize just how valuable it is to be passionate and to be a fan of some of these things. And that's what companies want and need. So for you to bridge that gap and to have that community where then you can almost be this talent finder or mediary, is that the word? Is that a word? I don't know. But like to connect the right people to the right places, that's really fucking cool to me. And I don't hear a lot of it. So if you don't mind, tell me specifically about that.
I think with music careers, we didn't necessarily understand how important it was until the beginning of 2020 and within the
Mm.
pandemic. So, just to backtrack a little bit, our bread and butter and really the foundation of Digilogue for the first 3 years was education and networking. So, being able to just have these IRL events to be able to like connect, but also to be able to like foster education through like our workshops and just have speakers. But we were like, how do we continue just to elevate our resources? So we discovered that a lot of our audience were young professionals, college students, and they're just
Yeah.
like looking for resources in terms of jobs. And you're like, well, the easiest thing that we can do is, at least, how do we make the job finding task a lot easier for the
Yeah.
community? So we basically paraphrased, the job descriptions, which are like sometimes like 10 paragraphs, and
Dude.
put them in a digestible like paragraph on socials, and made it super easy for people to find opportunities, especially during the pandemic. And that was super important for us. And then within that, we're like, so how do we continue to like guide this audience of like college students and like early careers? So we decided to actually launch a music career summit during the pandemic, where we featured like over 40 speakers to talk about their roles, because I think anyone that wants to enter the music space often wants to be an A&R or a manager. And there's so many more roles that you can apply for because of your interests. You can love math and go be a data analyst. You can also love math and also be an A&R researcher.
Yeah.
There's so many things that you can do. So we want to expand the understanding that, and really educate that there's so many different roles because of your interests. And you don't have to be an A&R manager to be in music. Part of that education is evergreen, so it's ongoing.
Again, I keep having these moments where I'm like, yes, I agree, strong agree. But again, I love that you are breaking that down. And I think even to this day, I'll kind of have to re-educate myself on what specific titles really are and what they do. Because again, you'll hear like, A&R is such a term. You always hear that. That's the dope job to have. But there are a lot of jobs in these fields that maybe people don't realize that all of their favorite things are the most qualifying skill sets, and there's absolutely a place for them. So for you to translate that a little bit better is pretty dope.
Definitely, and it just really just to manage expectations. Where like I think for a lot of college students and like anyone that's looking to pivot from their, let's say, their current career, which might be in a different sector, is
Yeah.
that you don't necessarily have to like prioritize like the big three, whether it's like Warner, UMG, or Sony, as like the job to make it. You can, start your passions in music with your own ventures, create something on your own. You can also, there's a lot of like independent companies, there's a lot of music tech adjacent companies. So we're just educating the music community that of all these different companies as well. And
Yeah.
like I said, we're not just a job board, because I think we really want to like stress that it's really this the education that we're providing on music careers is evergreen. Like we're teaching about roles, we're teaching about terms, everything that we're providing is evergreen as you're trying to navigate during your career.
How's somebody get involved? Like how do you get involved in that community, and how do you start to learn with that?
Yeah, I always encourage. Obviously, the simplest thing is to obviously follow us on socials, and these events are free, and just be able to like engage with not only just these workshops, but also with the peers from your community, from the Digilogue community, to be able to like follow our LinkedIn page, and find who's following us, right, and just seeing like, oh, I should network with this person, because the entry point into music is not like you're an accountant where you just study accounting and you just get an accounting job.
Yeah.
It's always been centered on relationships and being able to like be participating in the community as a whole. So you don't just work in the music industry and just clock out. Like I think it's important that you participate in whether it's like you go to shows, whether you're with your peers, because it's a lifestyle.
As you and I think like I feel a strong purpose as well to help people. And that's, I like to do this podcast because when I was trying to get involved more, and it was hard for me to find resource, and I hated how kind of gatekeepy it felt at times. And I very much like, I love building community. I think there's plenty of room for everyone to succeed. And I think everybody that's passionate about an industry should have a chance. But like, what do you, what do you honestly think the best way to have real community on social is these days? Like
The way I approach it is like the way that we had our first when we first had our first event that had 16 people. That's the same mentality that we have now that we have a larger audience, right? Whether it's engaging with people that comment on your post, as many direct messages I get, I make it an effort to respond to them and respond to comments and let them know that you're not talking to a wall or you're just talking to a logo. There's real
Mm-hmm.
people behind this,
Yeah.
and it's really just generally like engaging with them. A part of that too is being able to take time and as busy as I am, to have like an office hours. I basically block out an entire week and I jump on like 40 to 50 calls, one-on-ones, and with the community just to hear about their feedback, what they're looking for, just kind of just tips in terms of navigating, in terms of applying for jobs or yeah, it's just I think it's
That's
super
cool.
important to have that relationship and
Yeah.
for for the community to really engage and feel like they're part of it. It's not like a one-way street where you're just like getting all this information and you're not actually talking to the people that really power this, this platform, this community. And I always like to say the community drives us. We're just here to like um really program the ideas and needs that the community wants.
Yeah.
We're always community driven. That's part of our really like our DNA, and it's important to have that relationship.
I agree again with all of that. I've lately I've been trying a lot more with Discord. That's probably one of the places that I've actually been like, wow, cool. We can just hang out and talk. Like I, I lately, like I made one for the Where Are All My Friends podcast, and we'll just do voice chats where everyone will jump in, and it's similar, like where it's just like, how is everybody? Like, what y'all doing? You trying to apply for jobs? Where's everyone at? And it's not just me answering questions; it's everybody just kind of riffing and being like, oh, I tried this and this, and for the first time in a while, I've felt encouraged by that, where I'm like, that's that internet I do like real. It feels like making friends and stuff like that. Like, I get excited about that. So I was kind of curious of like, do you have any of those? Like, do you have any, you pop on the internet and you're like, fuck yeah, I'm talking to my friends.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, similar to you, we haven't launched yet, but we have a Discord as well, and I think also we also have different discussions, especially when we do our Zoom workshops. The chat is live. Everyone's like
Yeah.
talking,
Yeah.
and they're just happy to be there. And I think that's the most important thing. Like we're not here to judge anyone. We're just like, and I think that's the biggest thing. Like speak your truth, speak your voice. Like you know, um, obviously respect everyone, and I think that's always the most important thing that we definitely make sure that we have a safe environment, especially online. But at the end of the day, like we encourage everyone just to like speak, and speak up and participate. And I think that's part of really what community programming is. It's not one sided. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
you have to give them a platform to voice their opinions and their thoughts and provide feedback and just have opportunity to talk.
We talked about this a little bit, but you do all of this basically to help a ton of people. And then there's the annoying reality of like, oh, fuck, life is expensive. Like, I have to pay for stuff. So, I know one thing that you were telling me about, and I think you came at it from a pretty fresh approach, was you are going to make a Digilogue Patreon. But to my understanding, you were really planning to add some dope shit to it to make it like quite the resource, like something that somebody would be like, oh, yeah, I'll happily pay money for this. What's that all about?
Yeah, after 5 years of like free programming and like everything being free, and we wanted to figure out a way to kind of elevate our program as well, but also to be able to like figure out how does the community power us? How do we continue to do what we've been doing for the next 5 years? And the
Yeah.
Patreon is like a great platform. So we're going to be actually launching it January 26th, and along with
Oh,
our new
soon.
and we're super excited because a lot of the perks, especially when is important for us, is to be able to consolidate all our content in one place. And the great thing about that is that because everyone's super busy, there's a lot of people that reached out to me yesterday that couldn't make the workshop, but I was like, well, now you can just you're a Patreon, you're a patron, and part of the Digilogue community. You can tap in and watch the workshop anytime you want. And
Nice. That's
and I,
smart.
and I think the most important thing is that the educational content is evergreen. So we're going to keep adding onto it. So
Yeah.
regardless of what you pay for that moment, you're still always going to get more content, every month. And very similar to like the whole like subscription model, but it's more than that. It's, there's just this whole community of people that just generally want you to win. And
Yeah.
it's not like, hey, I'm actually just going to pay for something. You're actually investing in yourself, and you're also
Mm,
investing in us because we're
mm.
investing in you, and it's reciprocated. right? So we like to say that the community powers us, that the Patreon's going to power us, because that's what's going to allow us to really continue to grow and support all the programming that we've been able to do for the past 5 years. And obviously that was free, and it was out of pocket, and for my expenses and sponsors. But we want to figure out a way where the community is really investing in themselves, because it allows us to continue to grow and hopefully reach a broader audience, a bigger audience. And we've only tapped the surface in terms of who we can help. There's
Yeah.
more music creatives out in the world, and we've been able to see that, especially with the pandemic. How do we
Yeah.
reach this this global community even more?
Yeah. Do you find that there's a specific subject that people are asking for the most?
I think particularly for the artist community is definitely the marketing.
Mm.
So we have a series called a deep dive that I do, and really kind of dive into just marketing and best practices for artists. And
Mm.
during those workshops, like we actually do a workshop with like a real artist and kind of really go through like a mock scenario of like what
Oh,
we're gonna,
sick. Like you'll do a real-time build.
yeah, real time rollout, and really teach them, like, because my perspective is really to approach it from an independent standpoint, right?
Yeah.
So I take a lot of my learnings from the major labels, and like how do we kind of like customize it into like what a independent artist is working with in terms of budget, in terms of
Mm.
resources, and just really
Mhm.
like, hey, it's doable. You could do
Mhm.
this and make it
Yeah.
realistic. And then for a lot of the music career audience, young professionals, we have, like I said, our music career summit. We have like our resume workshops. So like teaching them just to really optimize their LinkedIn. So just different needs for different audience, but also sometimes they're one and the same, where you're an artist, but also you also want to work in the industry. So you may participate in both. So when I look at it, like the verticals again, education is really at like the center, and then you
Yeah.
have these artist discovery and music careers, and it
Yeah.
looks like a Venn diagram.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I was picturing that as you said it. Okay, cool. I love that. And then fun question to build on that. And we'll do one from music careers and we'll do one from artist. So music careers, marketing. Um, if you're consulting me or if you're educating me right now as an artist, what is one thing in the current day and age, 2022? Like, what's one thing that I absolutely cannot miss if I'm rolling music out? Like, in your opinion, what's a strong thing that people need to pay attention to?
Your story and your content is going to be the foundation of with your relationship with your fans.
Mm.
And it's just very challenging, especially as an artist, just to just put your music out and expect results. If you just want to
Yeah.
just manage that and just say like, hey, I just want to put music out for the art of it, not necessarily to make it a sustainable, livelihood, then
Yeah. Yeah.
just you have to separate the two.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah. Totally.
it's not like and it's like, how do you make art into commerce? Well, there's you have to cross that path where, I'm just going to put music out to put music out because I love it, but also how am I going to make this into a business where, and that's
Right.
where artists have to do their part and understand like this is a different like landscape where you're navigating against the attention economy,
Yeah.
people's attention
Yeah.
spans, and we have to figure out a way to like to engage with your fans in a consistent way where it's not just about your music, it's about your personality, and you got to figure out a way that makes the most sense for you.
Mm.
But that's where I see the artists that are winning, especially the independent artists that have figured that out.
Yeah, like from what I'm hearing there is like as an artist, if I'm in this position and I'm looking to put music out and I want it to land and I want it to get discovered, it's thinking a little bit bigger than just like I put out dope fucking art. Why don't I have people paying attention? And more of like, how can I present myself on the internet to have more time in this crazy attention economy? And where can I present myself and how can I present myself just past music to have more time that I'm speaking and saying shit? Is that kind of it?
Yeah, and by doing that, you have all these different like interests, and you never know, like that's about like really expanding your fan base, right?
Mm.
Because I'm sure we love our favorite artists not just because of their music, because of who they are, like
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
how they are and how authentic they are and what they love. So it's really expanding on that, and I think just really teaching artists like it's not just about putting your music out anymore, and you don't have to be the artist where like you're posting every day. It's just trying to find your own pace and figuring
Yeah.
out like, all right, so this content works. So I'm just going to do this every other Thursday or this Thursday. And you start to figure out like a routine or a rhythm. And the way I look at content is like similar to TV, where you just schedule it, right? It's like, all right,
Okay. Okay.
for example, Friday fashion. So like as an artist, I'm gonna show my new pair of like kicks every Friday, every Monday motivation. So that's very common. So maybe I'll put out a quote, or I do something that inspires me today, and share that with the community. So it's really kind of branding and creating a schedule. So you're not trying to figure out when to put out content.
Yeah, dude, that is, as much as that can feel a little bit heartless and it's like, oh, fuck, I have to schedule my creativity. I find it actually very helpful to just know some amount of a routine because it makes it more manageable. Going to the music professional and careers in music, something that I heard there is resume and LinkedIn. So, what's the one tip? What for you, if you're giving advice to a young professional or a professional trying to further their career in music, um, on the industry side, what's the one thing you can't miss right now?
Your activity on LinkedIn. Uh,
Really?
yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
I keep hearing that and I'm sleeping on LinkedIn and more. Like I kind of thought it was dead and I keep hearing it. So it really is like that still.
Yeah, when you think about it from a professional and just community standpoint, I mean, you have to have a profile.
Yeah.
And this is the most professional, like, social platform.
Yeah.
So, so the way that you really, project what you accomplish and what you do, and what interests and opportunities that you apply for, not to say that you can't get opportunities on Instagram or Twitter, but this is where everyone's at, and it's not necessarily a job platform anymore. It's really a community because people are engaging, they're talking, they're sharing resources. There's a huge creator community that's starting to like really be part of the LinkedIn community. I don't work at LinkedIn.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm only speaking from my experience there. Just having our digital community be very active. Like we have a LinkedIn page, and part of that is just education within music careers, educating about different roles, obviously the music jobs, music terms, but just
Yeah.
really just getting understanding of like the challenges that the young professionals are facing, looking for jobs. Um, I like to say the clues are in the comments and in the post. Like
Ooh.
you get a glimpse of like how to program, for the community, because they're there to voice their what they need help with.
Damn, cool. That's very insightful and helpful. I think that's I certainly personally was sleeping on that. So fuck yeah, thank you.
I love LinkedIn. Yeah, for sure. I don't work with them.
Yeah.
I don't work for
No,
them.
this fucking CEO of LinkedIn is tuning in specifically to this
Where's
episode
the
of Where Are All My
sponsorship?
Friends at the 56-minute mark, being like, yes, yes, it's working. Dude, I love that. One thing that I like to do as well to kind of conclude the podcast, it's always very fun and it provides a very interesting perspective to me and maybe similar to the L's. But if you could go back to any part of your life or your career that potentially was a low for you or a space of a lot of uncertainty, what point in your life do you go back to? And now, with what you know, what advice would you give to that version of yourself?
Yeah. Definitely that moment where when I was 25, like as hard as it was to to leave that job, um, I think I would have planned it a little bit better, in terms of just giving myself a little backup plan, because I literally just left
Hmm.
with no plan.
No
Um,
shit.
yeah, just a little no plan, and I think just what I had to go through to like, but it's one of those things where sometimes when you you make these decisions, you don't think, you just kind of just it's just an emotional decision. They're like f this,
Yeah.
I'm done,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're like, well, I gotta figure this out now.
Yeah, yeah. So in
So
hindsight, you wish that
yeah,
you had put a little more preparation before you fully
yeah,
just jumped.
well, to just give myself a plan just to like figure it out a little bit. Obviously I've focused on my career and going back to my point earlier about spending time and being present. I'm really like focusing on the relationships I have with my family, friends. Hopefully have a family in the next couple of years. Just like really just be able to really prioritize that because I've focused on my career and the community for so long that
Wow. You
I just want
almost
to make
forgot
sure.
about yourself a little.
Yeah, so I want to make sure that's priority, and yeah, I'm very conscious of that in terms of like how I balance things. Like for example, on Sundays is family day, and when people reach out, I'm like, I'm with my family. I can talk to you on Monday, and
Wow.
yeah, so just being very just very clear with my boundaries when it comes to just like spending time with them.
Yeah, dude. That's one where I'm like, I definitely understand that more and more. Like at first I was like, boundaries? Nah, I'm passionate about what I do. I'll do it whenever. And it's I think both the balance is great, but it is kind of crazy because sometimes you put work so far forward that you kind of have that day that you wake up and you're like, fuck, I'm lonely. Like shit, this ain't right. Like you need this balance. And the people and relationships we have, be it family or loved ones or friends or anything, like, dude, I mean, I certainly appreciate it more and more of like, oh, this is actually the only thing that matters. Fuck. So that's cool that as much as you are about building community and work and putting your heart and soul in it, that you have been mindful of that. That's a great reminder again for myself.
Yeah, it's I have to remind myself about that all the time.
Yeah.
And just like I said, it's you just never know because as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you're in your case in terms of all the things that you're a part of. Just being just mindful of it, knowing when to like not answer your phone, and that's something I always have to remind myself.
It's hard,
It's I,
dude.
I
It's
don't I don't
hard.
have I don't have the answer all the time, and you're gonna make sacrifices in terms of like the relationships and people that you have time with. And what I do appreciate is that when I do spend time with family, I only talk about family stuff. Like I don't talk
Nice.
about music. I don't talk about unless they ask me. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to kind of just make it about them and just listen and just enjoy my time with them. So, like I said, this is something that it's ongoing. Balance is ongoing, and that's for anyone that's listening now. Like it's not like you don't have an answer for that at that moment, but you have to work towards it every day.
Yeah. That's no, that's really, really cool. Dude, I had a feeling about you, but I I really, really am so glad that we got to do this episode and understanding more of what you've gone through and built with the Digilogue and everything. Like it's very reaffirming and exciting and motivating to know that there are other people in this industry that are really trying to build community and do cool shit because I really believe that there is so much room for everyone to succeed. So when resources like that exist, like I want to hear about all of them. So again, for myself and for listeners, follow the Digilogue on socials. Where else should I like any other like website or the LinkedIn or like just like really like how do you get that initial jump into educating yourself and getting involved?
Yeah, just follow us across all our socials just because our content also is very different on Instagram and LinkedIn.
Nice.
But I think it's important to kind of, just support us across all the socials. But yeah, it's an opportunity to really engage with the community, with like minded folks, because everyone is in very similar spaces,
Fuck
trying
yeah.
to really break through. And why not just, don't put your pressure to do it by yourself. Why not come up together? It's like,
Yeah.
we're all that's really the biggest mindset that I changed, early on is like putting all this pressure on me. I'm like, no, we got to do this together, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Totally.
I encourage that, but more importantly, thank you, Andrew, for we're all my friends, family, and shout out to Nick for considering me for this opportunity. I'm just happy to just, like I said, be here just to share my story and just to be able to just continue to collaborate with like-minded folks like you and do what we love.
Yeah, dude. I feel like again, it's like I'm so stoked. Like I felt like there was something about you and I think that the idea of the communities that we share and the circles that we're in were meant to be connected. So I'm certainly stoked on it. And I don't want to obligate you to it, but I would love to have you jump on the Discord sometime after the episode comes out too and just like chop it up, because I'm sure there's going to be questions off of this podcast and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm excited to also share, the with all my friends, the content, all the podcast episodes you created with the community as well, because I
Fuck
know
yeah.
they're going to benefit from all the interviews that you've had so far and really get to hear all the stories. So I'm excited about that. So kind of bridging the gap there too.
Yeah, dope. No, I love it. It's like it's funny because it's like, to me, I feel like this is an artist doing a feature, right? Like I feel like it's like the Where Are All My Friends Digilogue feature. It's like, oh yo shit, like they had the same style. It went together so well. So
Yeah.
yeah, any ways that we can keep doing shit, I'm in. I love it. It's my favorite thing. So dude, like just as much thank you for your time and for sharing this, because it's inspiring.
No, thank you, Andrew. Thank you to all my friends, family, and yeah, just can't wait to hear your feedback from the podcast interview and just to connect with you, um, online. And I'm here. Reach out.
Hell yeah. So there you go, Drew's story. Hope you liked it. Hope you got value out of it. And if you're here at the end, I very strongly encourage you to go follow the Digilogue and check out what he's up to. I personally am very intrigued and digging deeper into it myself. And it's really cool to feel like there's another like-minded community out there that's trying to grow and better themselves. At the very end, we talked about him jumping on the Where Are All My Friends Discord, which, plug to the Where Are All My Friends Discord, is a thing I would love for you to join. We've been doing a ton of voice chats where we all just go and hang, and a lot of the discussions in that voice chat have been super encouraging, where it's kind of just everybody talking about where they're at in their careers and what they're working on. But it's been really fun because a lot of people in the Discord have different careers or different lanes, and we all just ask each other questions, and I've personally learned a ton. It's really cool. Outside of that, if you want to go above and beyond and support the podcast at the absolute highest level, you can go to patreon.com/whereareallmyfriends. There's a ton of bonus episodes and extended cuts of some of my favorite episodes, all that good stuff. I try to put a ton on there. Also, just share this episode on social media anywhere, help other people discover it, share it with a friend if you think they like it. Thank you as always for listening. Hit me up if you have other guests you want to hear from. I'll be back next week with another episode.